Hey, welcome. So today we're diving into something that, well, it kind of flips our whole idea of power right on its head. We're going to explore this really counterintuitive idea that true strength isn't found in what we can do, but maybe, just maybe, in our weaknesses.
So, let me ask you something. When you're making plans for tomorrow, for next week, for next year, who do you think is really in charge? And if we're being really honest with ourselves, most of us act like we are, right? We map out our future like we're the captains of our own ship, in total control of the journey.
I mean, this is how we do it, right? We get super detailed. We say, okay, today or tomorrow we're going to go to this city, we'll stay for a year, we'll do this business, and we'll make this much money. It has a timeline, a location, a goal. It all seems so solid. But here's the thing. It leaves out this one huge, totally uncontrollable piece of the puzzle, the future itself.
And this is where the book of James just hits us with a huge reality check. It asks this incredibly profound question, what is your life? And then it gives this answer that's, well, it's really humbling. You're a mist. You're just here for a little while, you're visible, you're present, and then you're gone. Wow, what a powerful image for how fragile and fleeting our time really is.
Okay, so what does this all mean? It means we're building these incredible, detailed plans on ground we don't even own. We don't really have final say over the details of tomorrow, and we definitely don't have control over how long we're even here. It's a sobering thought, for sure, but it's the first step to understanding a totally different kind of power.
And that's what brings us to this incredible paradox we're digging into today, this idea of finding strength by surrendering. The whole concept is that real power isn't about getting rid of our weaknesses, but about what happens when we finally admit that we have them. It's a whole new way of thinking about what it even means to be strong.
All right, to really get this, let's talk about the Apostle Paul. This is a guy who is having these unbelievable spiritual experiences, surpassing the great revelations, as he puts it. But that kind of insight, it comes with a massive risk, pride. So to keep him grounded, he's given this struggle that he just can't shake. And he begged God, not once, not twice, but 3 separate times to just take it away. He calls it a thorn in his flesh. Now, we have no idea what it actually was. Could have been a physical sickness, some kind of nagging temptation. We just don't know. But the why behind it? Oh, that was crystal clear. It was put there on purpose to humble him, to keep him from getting arrogant, and to make him rely on a power that wasn't his own.
And the answer God gives him. This is the absolute core of everything we're talking about today. God doesn't take the thorn away. Instead, he tells Paul why it's there. My grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness. And listen to this wording carefully. Power is made perfect in weakness, not despite it, not working around it, but in it. That changes everything, doesn't it?
Okay, so that's the personal side. But what happens when you apply this idea on like a massive military scale? Well, the story of Gideon is this incredible, large-scale example of this exact same principle at work.
So you've got this guy, Gideon. He's up against an absolutely massive enemy army, 135,000 strong. So he gathers his own troops to fight back, and he starts with a pretty respectable force, 32,000 men. From a human perspective, that's his starting number, that's his strength.
But then God says something that sounds, well, it sounds completely nuts. He says, you have too many men. Why? Because if they win, they'll just take all the credit. So Gideon has to send home anyone who's scared. And just like that, poof, his army is cut by more than half, down to just 10,000.
You think that's it? Oh no, it doesn't stop there. God says, still too many. So after one more test, the army gets whittled down again to this tiny, almost ridiculous group of just 300 guys. We're talking a 99% reduction here. It's insane.
And that's when you see the why behind this crazy-sounding strategy. The whole point of shrinking the army was to make it impossible for them to boast about the win, so that when the victory came, and it was coming, there would be zero question about who made it happen. It had to be God.
So let's just look at those final odds again. 300 men versus 135,000. I mean, victory is completely impossible by any human standard. And somehow, with just torches and jars and horns, they win. Power was made perfect in their absolute undeniable weakness.
All right, so we've seen the big military picture. Now let's bring it all the way down to one person in one single high-stakes moment. Let's turn to the story of the Apostle Peter and that time he tried to walk on water.
So here's what happens, right? It's from Matthew 14. Jesus is walking on the water in the middle of a storm,
And Peter, who's always impulsive, says he wants to do it too. Jesus just says, "Come." And for a second, it's actually working. The guy is walking on water, but then he makes a mistake. He takes his eyes off Jesus and looks at the storm around him. Fear kicks in, and he starts to sink.
You see, the real problem here wasn't the storm. It was never the storm. The problem was where Peter put his focus. The second he shifted his attention from Jesus, the source of his power, to his circumstances, the wind and the waves, his faith crumbled. That incredible supernatural power he had, it was completely tied to where his focus was.
And when Jesus pulls him out of the water, he asks, "Why did you doubt?" The original Greek word used there is so interesting. It literally means to be of two minds. It's like he was in this mental tug-of-war, with one part of his mind on faith in Jesus and the other part on fear of the storm. He was divided, and because of that division, he sank.
Okay, so Paul's thorn, Gideon's tiny army, Peter's sinking moment, what does this all have to do with us today? Well, it brings us right back to the very beginning, doesn't it? Back to the plans we make and that illusion of control that we hold on to so tightly. And this is the simple, practical shift that James gives us. It's not that we shouldn't make plans. It's about the attitude we have when we make them. It's about planning with humility. That one little phrase, "if the Lord wills," totally changes everything. It acknowledges that a higher power is in control of both our life, we will live, and our actions, and do this or that. Planning stops being about our own strength and starts being an act of trust.
Okay, so let's just pull this all together. What are the big takeaways here? First, our feeling of being in control is mostly an illusion because life itself is fragile. Second, real power isn't found in being strong, but is actually perfected when we acknowledge our weakness. Third, sometimes the biggest victories don't come from fighting harder, but from surrendering. And finally, faith isn't about having no storm around you, it's about where you put your focus in the storm. So I want to leave you with one final thought to chew on. We all have those things we see as our weaknesses, right? Our own personal thorns in the flesh. We spend so much time and energy trying to hide them or fix them. But what if that's all wrong? What if that area where you feel the weakest, the most vulnerable, the most powerless, what if that very weakness is actually the doorway for real power to show up in your life? What if your greatest weakness is actually your greatest opportunity?